Welcome to the Inside Story Hunters podcast, where our stories are the core of human connection and the driving catalyst for change, clarity, growth, and opportunity. I'm Lori Guzman, aka Lori with a Story, your connection expert. Every week we're bringing you the inside stories of humble serial entrepreneurs, successful life changers. Why do their inside stories matter? Because we're helping them drive opportunities to the right people and their businesses. We are relationship experts who skillfully help others unveil their inside story with a goal to connect them to new opportunities. As an expert of uncovering the inside stories, I've learned there really are no strangers, and everything's tied together. It only takes one great story to make a difference. So, come take a journey with me, and let's go listen to another great inside story. Here we go. I am so excited to have Brian and Chris with me today, Chris White and Brian Reichenbach.
Good job.
Thank you. I practiced that for 20 hours. But I will not repeat it because I won't get it right. But the Inside Story Hunters is here today to capture a bit of the inside story of Chronicle Partners. I've had the honor and my family to be a client of yours and a friend of yours for several years now, and you've been a blessing in our lives. But the part of your story that really goes untold that I'm passionate about bringing out and bringing forward, and I hope that you'll help me facilitate that today, is for you to share a little bit about yourselves. And I know it's been a journey on how we've arrived at Chronicle Partners, but let me just turn it over to you and say, Brian, would you share just a little bit about who you are and what do you bring to the firm and what's this all about for you?
Sure. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks for the kind words. So again, Brian Reichenbach, and I am the COO and Co-Founder of Chronicle Partners. In terms of what I bring, I am pretty heavily on the operational side of the business. So I have my hands in a little bit of everything, but really day to day, a lot of client communications, a lot of planning, team management, but then obviously up to the big picture stuff of running a business and a little bit of business development, which is more Chris's realm than mine. But yeah, I'm more the operational, detail-oriented, if you're a DISC fan, high C type of a person. And yeah, my background, I'm a certified financial planner. I'm also an attorney. That's what brought me to Nashville originally. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I know that you're also on some boards, nonprofit organizations, very plugged into serving from a position of a servant heart. So.
Yeah, I serve on the board of a local nonprofit, Reroute, and Reroute helps women going through the divorce process of connecting them with the right resources and really just giving folks that are in a really tough time of their lives access to the right advice, the right people that they usually just don't have access to. So yeah, that is a passion area of mine.
And as an attorney, and passionate about law, right? I mean, it's black and white. So why don't you elaborate just a few minutes about that part of, it's a unique part of who you are.
It is, yeah. It's funny, you say it's black and white, I say it's all gray. The words are black and white, but the interpretation is up to, really the courts, but people, and that's where the gray comes in. People always comes in with people. So yeah, my perspective, having gone to law school, I was and am passionate about the law, but I ended up in law school because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I was really grateful to be there. I met my wife there, and it gave me a good background, and it gave me a good way to think and see the world. You tend to think much more critically about things. Like I said, it's gray. Most things aren't black and white. Some things are, but there's a lot of nuance to the world. I always tell people the main thing that I brought with me from the legal world was attorneys are always meant to be zealous advocates for their clients. So I brought that with me. The good thing about what we do is we are not working against another side. We're always working for our clients, but we get to be zealous advocates for our clients and do absolutely everything we can to serve out their best interests and try to help them.
I love those words, zealous advocates. I've never heard you use that phrase, but it's so true. And not to, take it back to Lori, but you're an advocate for my family, you're an advocate for my future, you're an advocate for my ability to change my mindset in order to acknowledge the power of investing, more importantly, saving, and that, anyone can do that. So I love those words, incredibly powerful. So are you intimidated to tell your story now? Brian did such a great job sharing.
Very articulate.
And then came up with zealous advocates. Really. And forget about black and white, everything's gray. Come on, what are you going to be able to bring to the table?
Probably not much. The reality is I try to use really big words when I'm around.
And I correct them.
So I will look at it and say, did I use that right? Yeah. I'm Chris White.
Oh, Chris White, it's good to see you too.
Very simple name, comparatively.
We were just talking about that, right, earlier today, that we want to come back and forget about Lori. I know Lori with the story I don't know why people haven't taken advantage of it, but Chris, we want to come back, I don't know what my name will be, but it's sure not going to be Lori, right? What's yours going to be? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, all right, let's go back to you.
So I serve as CEO and co-founder with Brian. And we live on a little farm out towards Leapers Fort. So I've got a beautiful bride from South Dakota. Been married 13 years, and we've got dog and cats and goats and chickens and 4 small human beings, ages 10 down to 2. So beautiful chaos at the White House. Very, very.
I like your White House, though.
There's always chaos in the White House.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah. But it's located here in Tennessee again.
Here in Tennessee,
not Washington.
Franklin,
Yeah.
not Washington.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. And so, really, what I engage in here with Chronicle Partners is a lot on the relational side, and so that's a really big passion area of mine, is to deeply just develop deep relationships with folks, and so. Get to spend a lot of my time with prospective clients, centers of influence, but love going deeper with our existing clients. That's where generally I spend most of my days is visiting with people and deepening those relationships. I am on some of the planning side with Brian. I generally stick more on the strategy side of stuff. I tell folks it's better that Brian and our team steps in. Because I'm more on that relational side, and so that's what we have realized over the years is what we want to do is we want to have the right people on the bus in the right seats, and so we have over time discerned what our best use of time is and what our maybe talents and giftings are, and so that's where I get to spend a lot of my time. And so,
tell us though, we don't get to arrive to a position like that just because. Because people would hear what you just described as easy, fun. You get to make friends. That's what I would call it. But we have to earn that seat, because there are steps along the way that enable us to have the resources, the support, and the ability, and the team, as you've acknowledged, Brian and Carly and Carrie Ann and the rest of your team. But so the journey to get there, to do what you're doing today, just dig in a little bit more with me on that, on what do you think it takes in order for you to be in the position to focus on that, to be in the sweet spot, to be right in the lane where you belong?
The one word I would use is team. I'm not able to live into my unique giftings and do what I do without Brian, without Carly, without Carrie Ann, without Katya. It's because we have an amazing team that operates at a very high level that I am able to pull out of the operational side, pull out of a lot of the planning side to really go deeper with those that we get to serve and prospective folks, and then just other professional partners around the area. And that's because of these guys. I get the opportunity to do that, and I take that very seriously, and there is no confusion for me that is the reason that I am able to do that, is because of these guys being highly capable at what they do.
Would you agree that the way that you're approaching your professional life would be almost a dynamic way to talk about other entrepreneurs? When a level of success is achieved, you're going to find tell me from your client perspective that they are spending their day more on the big picture, the vision. They're not in the operations. They're not working in their business. They are hopefully working on it. Take me through that. Would that be a fair assumption that we're describing? Because this is your practice. You're very passionate about the entrepreneur. So take me through that, because I do think it describes an entrepreneur.
I think at the end of the day, we all desire to do the things that we're really passionate about and that we really, feel like we've been gifted to do. And in fact, I sat down with someone yesterday, entrepreneur, has built a really awesome business over the years. A lot of blood, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears, a lot of loss, a lot of heartache. And at the end of the day, this person is able to live out what they do because of all that has transpired and because of the team that this person has. And so it's kind of a labor of love over time, where you continue to get to live into that. And so, and I think for our clients too, I think this is part of the question, we get to really dig into that situation and dig into their goals and their desires and the legacy that they desire to build, and we get to work in that so that they can do the things that they really enjoy, the things that matter to them, so that they don't have to take the additional time or the concern, and they offload some of that and a good bit of that to us. And so, yeah, I think there's absolutely similarities. And for the entrepreneurs and business owners that we serve, and those are, it's definitely kind of a group that we add a lot of value to. We can step in as that partner. We can step in as that team to really help them, so that they don't have to work in that, and they can work more on their business and on their life and their legacy.
And I would think that at all ages, your clientele, right? I mean, you want to work with awesome people, and you have some details that you've shared with me that I'm well aware of who your ideal client is. But I also know that I sit before you as one of your clients who came to you from a unique position of, the idea of saving money was just, that's not possible based on, factors and circumstances. But interesting enough, a few years later, come to you with a small amount of money and just say, vulnerably and humbly, and you made it safe for me. You're advocates of that deep conversation where you just organically get there. And I call it the inside story, right? But, the fact that business owners, entrepreneurs, you're looking for those long-term employees, the leaders in companies, that you can help be advocate. I love the zealous advocates. I just really love that. So, which makes me think of, I think the most powerful thing that you all serve is money. And I know we could dig in to say, Lori, it's God for, we need to go to the things that are much more important than money. But really, the power of understanding money, would you not say that is just a tremendous part of what a zealous advocate must need to be a caretaker of?
Yeah, and I want to go back and talk about the money, the power of money with you too, because I think that's a really interesting conversation. Yeah, when we were talking about the mindset, you were kind of thinking, I think most people assume that and they do in some ways, but they think that the millionaire thinks differently about money than the thousandaire. But at the same time, when you're saving, when you're investing, 10% volatility, 10% downside volatility feels a lot different when you've got $1 million. But at the same time, that person with $1,000 now has $900 as well. So I think really at the end of the day, people, regardless of how much they have, think very similarly about the asset. So and I think I told you, it becomes much more complicated, as you have the million and the 5 million, et cetera, et cetera. It becomes much more complicated. Taxes, estate planning, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the pure mindset, and that's maybe a good segue to go back to talk about money and the power of money and what we can really help with. But the the background, the mindset that people have, it's really not that different. You were talking about the power of money versus the knowledge around money. I think that's a really important distinction to make. And the other word I was going to throw out there was asset instead of money, because I always say money is just a tool. I don't think money it doesn't have any inherent value. It literally doesn't. It has value because the federal government says it has value, and all of us agree that it has value. That's a long long conversation. But anyway, money, a dollar bill has no inherent value besides maybe kindling for a fire. But the power comes with the knowledge of what that money can do and what you can use that tool for. You can buy an RV to take trips with your family. You can save for retirement. You can send your kids to college. It's a tool to accomplish things. A lot of folks we'll talk to have a goal of saving $1 million or getting to whatever dollar amount. That's not really a goal, or at least it's a superficial one. But really spending some time thinking about it, determining what your goals really are besides just numbers on a piece of paper, I think that's maybe one of the most important services or values that we can provide to people, is to really think that through, have that either internal dialogue or external dialogue, and figure those things out.
I so appreciate what you're saying, because what you did is you take it to another level. You've done this in our client review sessions, where you'll say, what's your goal? And I'll just say, I don't know, save another 10 grand, right? And you'll say, oh, but what for? What's the purpose? What's the intention? Where will it go? How long will it stay with us from an investment standpoint for us to utilize or have? Will you plan to use it in some way? And so, to your point, great way to talk about how money being a tool and the power of assets, more importantly, investment, I think is such a beautiful word. It took on a whole new meaning when I realized investment was more than just putting money somewhere, like nestling it in a nest and just hoping that, I don't know, it magically will do something, right? Or saving it. Even the word saving, for what? What's the purpose? Would you like to share?
Yeah, I think Brian hit the nail on the head that money is a tool. Money is amoral. It's not good, it's not bad. It's a tool to be used for XYZ. And I think it's important for people to understand that money can be used for really great stuff, to accomplish really great purposes. Money can also be used in a really bad way too. The love of money is the root of all sorts of evil, right? And so I think there is, it's a fascinating conversation that Brian brings up about money in and of itself. A currency really doesn't have a value unless there's a value put upon that. And I think far too many people put way too much value in those pieces of paper they hold in their hand, or in the numbers they see in some account.
Yes.
And they put a lot of thought into that, and maybe there is, there are those old commercials that said, what's your number? What is your number? What's that number you have to have? And so many people do focus on that number, but at the end of the day, we're not taking any of it with us. And so at the end of the day, what is the use of that money? What is the use of that asset? And are we going to use it for good? Are we going to not use it for good? Are we going to be able to accomplish the goals and the desires that we have? Are we going to be able to impact? And there's so many questions around that. And so what we always focus on is what is that goal? What's that desire? Saving up $10 million it's not a goal. There has to be something attached to that.
I know what you gentlemen have done for me is created the mindset of the power of peace. So when there is money or there are resources that are saved or being invested, the idea that it's there, it's connected, it's part of you now, it creates such a peace. And so I think the audience that's connected to this Story Hunters are individuals that are at a stage that they're seasoned, they're professional, they've accomplished some success, they desire more, but they've reached a stage in life where you said it so well. We don't take that with us, right? I'm not going to take my shiny jacket, whether you like it or not. I love it.
I like it. It's really
Thanks.
nice.
But that to take it with me. None of these things, right? But we bring it and we have it. But the peace of mind. So it really was just the two of you were such advocates of creating a transition in someone's life that's much deeper than transactional sit down and let's move some of your funds or let's get into that, right? And you actually do those client reviews. It's not, people often say it's part of their practice, but it's something you take very seriously to make time with your people. So, you did walk me into something, and I want to ask, because it's, I think, a differentiator of the two of you as business partners. And I hope that I'll ask the question in such a way that you'll feel at ease, and that you'll share. But you come to the table differently. You have the same core values. But tell me I mentioned, I'm on God's payroll. I believe that, and it's a lot of hard work, even though I spend most of my day just making friends. So, and the two of you come to the table differently. From a religious, I don't know, different is not the right word, but religious, spiritual aspect, you arrive to your life from a different perspective. So rather than me just continue to elaborate on that, would you take a minute and take us through that? Because it's a huge part of who you are, and it's a huge part of who you are. And then, is marrying that together simple?
Yeah, so Brian and I have been working together for a little over a decade now. And he and I partnered up officially in 2017. And that was one of the first conversations that he and I had. I can't remember if I brought it. I think I brought it up, but you were planning on bringing it up. So for me, I'm a follower of Jesus, and for me, it's tough not to have a conversation in any given day that is not, the Lord's not brought up in some form or fashion. And I shared that with him, and he knew that about me. And we come from different perspectives. And I think some people throw up red flags in that type of situation. I can tell you with 100% certainty, I felt tremendous peace when he and I were talking about potentially partnering up. Felt a great deal of peace walking into that, and all the pieces came together. And I think the reason is that you came back to it, or you mentioned it in the first place. Brian and I see things very similarly. Even though we come from different spiritual backgrounds and different spiritual perspectives, at the end of the day, what he and I are here to do, what our team is here to do, is to love on people and to help them. And we can use different language around that. But at the end of the day, really what our deep desire is for Chronicle Partners and how we affect people is to really impact them and make a difference. And help them be intentional with what they've been entrusted. And so we both, that is our viewpoint on what we get to do and how we get to do it. And so there is very common ground in that. Our core values are very similar. Again, I think our core values are derived from different places, but we land at very similar places. We don't agree on everything, and that's okay. It's actually probably good.
Sure.
It's a good thing. We don't agree on everything. And I think when we come together and we are thoughtful with one another, we hold each other in high regard. We always try to do what's best for one another. And I'll speak for myself. I don't always do that well. I am a work in progress, for sure. But I think at the end of the day, when we are viewing our relationships, internally and externally, where we have a high admiration, hold each other in high regard, we're thoughtful for one another, that makes all the difference in the world. And so even though we come from different spiritual perspectives, we can very effectively link arms for a common purpose, for a mission, and carry out the mission that we're here to accomplish.
I think for us, I'll try not to focus too much on religion, because I don't know how far we'll get with that necessarily. And I think I think the word spirituality is good as an alternative, not as an alternative, but as a comparison point maybe to religion. And I'll also use, I think, perspective. I think perspective is good as well, because I think it's really healthy to have different perspectives. So we talked about one of my main ones already, which again is my legal background, and I'll go back to that. I jokingly, half not, was talking about black and white, good and bad versus gray. And I don't see too much as necessarily good or bad. And this is, it does come back to that zealous advocate, not to harp too much on that term, but as an attorney with a client, and really as a financial planner with a client, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to tell you this should be your goal or this shouldn't be your goal. I want to help you find out what's important to you, and I want to help you accomplish that.
Yes.
I mean, there are certainly some lines to that at some point, but whether you want to send your kids to college or whether you want to have, a bunch of money in retirement or whatever the case is, and Lori, I think you used a great example earlier, you used the word peace. And that can mean a lot of different things, but
Yes.
for a lot of people, that can mean I want to have enough resources, enough assets in retirement that I'm not worried.
Yes.
And it's hard to put a number on that. So it's hard to know how much is too much, how much is not enough,
Yes.
because it changes. It's a moving target. So we're not, and you mentioned annual reviews too. Our value isn't talking about a mutual fund or an investment solution or an insurance product. Those are the tangible things that we do and we talk about, but it is so much more important to talk about the evolving nature of your goals as a person, what's changing, and making sure that your assets continue to adapt to that. Because it's always a moving target. Every meeting that we have, literally an hour later, not everything has changed, but a lot's changed. So I think I'm getting us off topic from the marrying our different perspectives, but I think that also probably speaks to the fact that it's not as much of a division as it seems when you just say Christian and not, or
Right.
Christian and Jew, or
Right.
whatever the case is. It's not. It's very easy to say, oh, you're different, you don't agree on anything. And
Yes.
that's obviously just not the case.
I mean, you're sitting here with a Jewish woman, right? And we did not have a conversation that was based on religion, and we didn't dig in, which is a very typical conversation that I experience often, which a stranger will in minutes feel it's their right, and that it's a great opportunity for them to convert our visit, which was not based on let's talk religion, that it converts into let's dig into that because it's different. But the truth is, to your point, it really isn't. But the fact that the two of you again bring to the table such a unique approach, and that spending time with both of you, not for 1 second did I ever feel as though that the differences that I bring to the table would be something that was not important to both of you. That you were tuned into that from the beginning. And you didn't spend time focusing on the differences. You just stewarded in the things that would help facilitate what I love, Brian. I never thought about this before till you just said it, was the fact that you don't know when peace will arrive. You think if you save $1 million, you'll have peace of mind. You might actually arrive there if you have 50 grand saved. Depends on, what the necessity is. So with that, I feel like we've covered so many great things, and I've done everything in my power not to be like, wow, it was so good. But I figured I would end our interview today that way, from a place of just, you brought the inside story. For me, we say assets and, your zealous advocates and all of the important things that come from your perspective, how you approach your professional world, which is the same. It's life balance. It's not work-life balance. But the fact that you gave me an opportunity today to draw out an inside story of what makes you two so unique, what makes Chronicle Partners so unique, is just a blessing. in many people's lives, and I am grateful for both of you. So
Thanks,
you
Lori.
make my life feel has lots of peace in it. So thank you for encouraging all the right changes to enable me to do the work, take the steps, and create ways that brought me peace of mind. And may it continue. So thank you both.
Thank you.
That means a lot.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks for
that.
having us.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Inside Story Hunters. If you liked the episode, be sure to share your aha moments with us on Instagram at Lori with a Story. Please take a few minutes and share our podcast with your friends and family. Leave us a review on the platform where you're listening. Remember, we're not strangers. We just haven't connected yet. We would love to hear your inside story because your story matters. Want to share your story? Don't forget to enter our monthly contest for a chance to win the opportunity for us to choose your story. Each month we highlight an inside story on our blog. Simply head over to LoriWithUsStory.com and be sure to connect with us. Thanks. Bye for now.